the time.
Forever? Tangent. Old.
Halt.
Hashtag always MGM.
You are approaching the unloading area.
Calm down. AK haters.
But what if it could?
Behold, the
Disney
majesty of the
breeze.
Sistine Ceiling.
For the kids.
A salute to all theme parks, but mostly Walt Disney World.
What a cute ending.
Aloha and
Don't Dillo it.
This is Theme Park Thursday with Dillo's Diz. She is Jen.
Hello.
And I am Frank, and we are recording on a Tuesday evening. It was Oscar nomination day earlier today. We'll touch on that in a moment in preparation for this Theme Park Thursday podcast on, well, let's carry the one. It's what, January 25th. Oh, it's 2 days before Jen's birthday.
Oh, no. Nope.
We'll skip right through that because I promised we'd keep the intro short.
We must, so we cannot discuss that.
It will just carry on with our business because we're super excited for today's episode. I want to say, and Jen, maybe you can concur, that our guests today have been on the hottest of hot streaks in the Disney podcasting community.
For sure.
For sure. And I want to point, it's probably ever since the day that we did not meet up that second weekend of September. I think that day they encountered something during that weekend that has charted this course over several months.
Yeah. But one could argue, was it worth it? I mean, we didn't all meet up. Was it really worth it to be on this course they've set themselves on? I don't know.
I mean, I think that is a very valid question to ask here over the course of the next hour or so as we bring them right in. It's Tom. It's Michelle. It's the Hyperion Adventures Podcast.
Woo! So good to be here, Frank. Jen. It's been way too long. And even though we just can't seem to meet up in person, it is good to be able to meet with you virtually after such a long time.
We got to do what we can. It's not
That's
in the cards for us otherwise.
I know.
So
I mean, both of our podcasts started in the same year, around the same time. And ever since then, it's been a 6-year journey for us to meet in person.
we thought you guys coming to the East Coast would make it easier. No, no, it hasn't.
No. And
it would be funny if we ended up all meeting together at Disneyland.
I mean, it's possible at this point. I think anything's possible.
The longest route possible to get together. Yes. Yeah.
We'll meet at the Matterhorn.
Exactly.
Oh man.
It's gonna have nightmares. It's gonna be a whole...
Well, yeah, we thought we were going to be close in September when we had our meetup weekend. Tom and Michelle were at Destination D23, and we were texting, and we were one's over here and one's over there, and but then Tom and Michelle got to see Journey of Water. They all got brought into Epcot on this epic journey, and we were in Galaxy's Edge in a galaxy far, far away. It was just not meant to be.
Again, was that worth it? A sneak peek at Journey of Water? I don't know.
No. We were even closer the night before. We were over there at Bay Lake Towers, and there you were, just literally steps away at Magic Kingdom for the not so scary Christmas or scary Halloween party.
Yes.
Yeah, like that was even closer than the studios to. Hashtag always MGM, excuse me, to Epcot. We've never been closer and yet farther away.
Just the yes and something right there, Tom. Should they have a not so scary Christmas party? Maybe they should. Little Dickensian Christmas, I think. Maybe.
They're always trying to sell the villains. Maybe we can have a very villain holiday.
Yes,
I like that too. Here we go. We're off and running, not staying on the path I talked about in the green room.
That is allegedly laid out, but we have no proof. Frank is the only one with proof of this path. We have no idea. So
my first question is, Tom and Michelle, do you feel this hot streak that you've been on? Do you feel like that the podcast has been on fire the last couple of months? Because we feel the fire.
Well, I think we have felt very fortunate with some things that have come about and feeling blessed about that. But we still feel like doing your podcast it's like a real peak for us as well. So I guess if you're going to say we're on a roll, we're still there.
I mean, considering the guests you've had on your show in the past, yeah, we feel pretty special to be allowed to join Theme Park Thursday once again.
Oh, way to divert it back towards us.
Mhm. See what you did there. All right. Can you take us through, because we have yet to be at any kind of D23 event of sorts.
Mhm.
Can you walk us through, like, what is that like? How crazy is it? Is it so cool? Is it a different sense of Disney magic? Tell me all the things.
Well, I'd say yes, because you have rooms full of people who are positive Disney fans, I think, and well, for the most part, at least it seems like that. They they seem like they've chosen to be there and want to be there and see some exciting things. So I do think that's pretty cool. Um, this was our first D23 destination D23. We had been to the expo a couple times, so we weren't sure what to expect, and it blew us away.
It's a little different vibe going to Destination D23 than the D23 Expo. D23 Expo is very Comic-Con. It's very, a little bit more manic. It's a little bit bigger. It's a little bit more of like, you're going to wear yourself out, getting to this, getting to that, waiting lines. The energy is incredible. Amazing Disney things happen at the expo, but you're going to wear yourself out going through that process, getting up early to get in those lines to some of the key
Panels.
yes, panels, thank you, talks that they have throughout it. If you want to go see those, it can be a little bit exhausting at times to do that, waiting in those lines, getting in there. Destination D23 is a different animal. It's because of the way they do it, they only sell enough that there is a guaranteed seat in every panel. So, I mean, yes, you can get up a little bit early and get in line, but you don't have to get up like hours early and wait in line for hours and everything. You really get it's more casual. You don't have to feel like I need to rush and get out in the morning, or I'm not going to make this big event, this big talk or whatever. And the announcements aren't as big, but there's a lot of great stuff going on. You get a lot of swag, I have to admit.
Yeah.
We could have walked out of
Sweet.
there with a suitcase full of stuff that comes along with it. I highly recommend, especially for anyone on the East Coast. Yeah. And they, like I said, it's limited tickets, so it goes pretty quickly. But if you can, it's worth the effort to go do Destination D23 as a Disney fan.
Yeah. And that's cool that you're kind of, guaranteed that seat. That does help with when you're getting up and getting going. Like, well, I know I'm going to see
Right.
this, so this is okay. It's worth it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We talked about the Oscar nominations, and so I think jointly we have been anticipating the Oscar nominations this morning, in great part because we assumed wrongly that Once Upon a Studio was going to get nominated in the short category. It did not come to pass today. So before we exert our anger, I want to take the journey with you, because during that Destination D23 weekend, you both got that sneak peek, and immediately on the podcast was like, "This is it, everyone. Get ready. This is it. This is the positive Disney experience you have been waiting for all year."
Yeah, it was totally unexpected to have that kind of experience, and how it played out, having the co-creators, co-directors there and giving a little intro to it and then seeing it. And again, when Tom talked about the energy in the room, I mean, there was a very prolonged standing ovation after they showed the short, because everybody just fell in love with it. And the more you got to know about that short, the more you could appreciate what it took to deliver that.
It was extremely interesting because this was the first thing on the Sunday morning, right? So it was after the late night at Epcot. So everybody's like, who's going to this thing, like I said, you didn't have to get up super early like you do for D23 Expo, but you still, to make it there, you had to get up relatively early. So everybody's just kind of in a fog.
A lot of people drinking coffee.
Right. Yeah.
Coffee
in
Sunday
line.
morning.
You're in a fog and you're like, but you knew that this was going to be the panel that was going to talk about what's coming up for Disney animation, Disney films, Marvel, Star Wars, everything. And this first thing comes out, and the two guys came out and they're like, hey, we did this short for the 100th year anniversary. We're going to show it. We didn't know anything about it. We hope you like it. And this thing comes on. And the wave of emotions that I went through and Michelle went through, and I think everybody in the crowd went through, of laughter and tears and joy and nostalgia and everything. And then it ends, and just the whole crowd literally leapt to their feet to give these two guys a standing ovation, because it was one of the most phenomenal things we'd seen. The energy in that room just suddenly perked up after that. It was pretty incredible to experience.
And you could really see those guys getting emotional at the reaction of the audience, because it was one of the first few times that they had shown it to an audience. And I think they were very in shock of just how much love was poured out to them.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
I'm sitting there for the rest of this panel, and they're talking about Star Wars and Ahsoka and all this stuff. We're getting Ahsoka ears because they're talking about, what's going on with Marvel and other things, Disney animation, Wish coming out and everything else. And all I kept thinking about, I was like, that was insane, right? I was like, it was on my mind for the entire rest of the day. That is all I could think about was how amazing that short was.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
and then
that's a
about how
magical moment.
Yeah, and hearing about how Richard Sherman played, Feed the Birds at that piano in Walt's office for the
on a Friday
afternoon for this, for the short. It was just like, oh my God, can you pull at our heartstrings any tighter? It was just too phenomenal.
Do you think there was anyone during this prolonged standing ovation that was rightly deserved? Was anyone not crying? Because as soon as you said prolonged standing ovation, I'm like, oh, well, I would have been hysterical. Crying.
Yeah, I think everybody was. I remember clapping and thinking, what more can I do to express to these guys that they have just done something so phenomenally wonderful for the world,
Yeah. Jump up and give them a hug. Would that have been too weird?
Yes. If they weren't going to cart me away, I would have.
I would have liked to have seen if anybody else was crying, but I couldn't see through the tears.
Yeah.
No, but you could hear in the audience as it was playing, you could hear the sniffling. You could tell everybody was going
Mostly
through
from
those
me.
emotions. No, yes, from you, but even from everybody around, you could hear it. It was very loud, like everybody was getting choked up with it. Of course, one of the things we've said too, it was the best way to see it because again, it was in a room full of people who were excited to be there, and had a love of the company. So that really certainly helped as well.
Well, I do want to talk about how the communication began with Dan Abraham and Trent Corey, and just like that lead up to. But I do want to say, because it was mentioned in your interview with them, that everyone found different nostalgia in it, and that's what they were discovering over time, is that everyone was hitting a different point where their nostalgia feels were ignited. And I can't speak for Jen, and we talked about it separately on the podcast, but one of the things that, for me, we talk about Mickey's Christmas Carol and like this collection of Disney characters together. And we talk about Who Framed Roger Rabbit, this collection of animated characters together. Like that sort of thing was so prevalent in the early days of our Disney fandom. So to see that here again, and I'm like, we should be doing this more often, right? This is what we should be doing.
Right.
That's how it felt. Yeah.
Right. And especially for the fact that they did bring so many of the original folks together, whether it was, voice actors or animators, people who had retired or moved on to other careers, came back to the studio for this purpose. And so I think that's also something that made it much more unique. You can talk about how they also had to integrate live action or computer animation with actual line drawn animation and things like that, but just also the actual people who were involved in making it made it so unique, made it so special. So it wasn't just somebody who sounded like any of these characters. It was the real people. I mean, even for the genie, they listened to so many hours of unused audio from when they were creating Aladdin, and were able to extrapolate some of that to keep that authenticity was just really great.
Yeah, can we all get to listen to 16 hours of Robin Williams for
I know, right?
We can.
Yes.
The dream.
I know.
So just to and then once because when it premiered, I think it premiered when Encanto was on ABC, I think sometime probably during sweeps in November and things like that. So my question is, when did the communication start between both of you and Dan and Tron? Who made the first move? Was it Tom? Was it Michelle? We want to know. Was it together? Was it jointly?
So with the buildup, now we had to go a month without being able to, by selling this thing without selling this thing, because we knew it was going to happen, and we didn't want to give any spoilers away. And we also
didn't want to jinx anything.
Right. We didn't want to jinx anything. We also went through a month of we were in the perfect position. We're talking this thing up, and when everybody's going to see it, are they going to be disappointed because they didn't get to see it the way we saw it?
Right.
So Dillo did a little bit there, near the end. But we thought it was so good. So we were putting things out there, especially as we were getting close to that date. And especially on Instagram, we noticed that a couple of guys were liking some of our posts on Instagram. A couple of guys we've gotten to know a little bit. And then we were just like, wow, that's exciting that those guys are liking our stuff. Of course, we're talking about Dan Abraham and Trent Corey, who are the creators. That's exciting. And so one day we just decided, you know what?
Let's light candles.
Let's slip into their
back to
DMs.
Where's that holy water that I stored away in some plastic container? Talk about pixie dust, and then there's holy water. Whatever works, right?
And it worked. We reached out to them. We got a response. They pointed us in the right direction. We talked to the right people. We coordinated with them. It took us some time because it was right around Thanksgiving, and everybody's got all this stuff going on for Thanksgiving, including us. As we kept working with them, eventually we settled on a date and a time, and I took off work. I took a long lunch to record it because I'm like, their time is much more important than mine. Whatever you need, I'll figure out a way to get off of work. And we recorded it, and it was, those guys they're the honest goods. They are everything you think they are. They love Disney animation. They love Disney. They were total fanboys about this whole experience. They love this, and you could tell the love comes through in that short. Everything about it is them and their love of Disney and their love of these animators, these characters, these voices. It all comes through, and that's why it's so magnificent to me.
And I think they really hit it when they said they created something that they wanted to see. And I think that's why it resonated with so many people, because I think it's what everybody would want to see.
Yeah. And I think that was one of my favorite things about listening to you both with them is they're like who you hope everyone at Disney is, right? They were so excited, even as they're talking through, going through different ideas and throwing things out there here and they're like, same. I want to do that. It was right. You, like you said, it all comes through, and how they're talking about the process themselves. It's like they were reliving it and loving it all over again, and
Exactly.
but it's so great to see that. And not that, I don't really lower my expectations when it comes to Disney and the animators and everybody behind all of this, but you never really know what goes on behind the scenes, right? So you don't know if
Right.
you're gonna be like, oh, are these guys like, oh, they're very, important people. I don't know, but they
Right.
were two people who you felt like I could totally sit and talk to for hours, and they could be friends of mine. I mean, I know they're like
Exactly.
besties of yours now, and I get it, and I'm not trying to step on toes. I'm just saying.
Yeah. No,
They're
yeah.
genuine people.
They are
really are.
genuine, and they appreciate what they've experienced with this, and they still are, kind of feeling like pinch me kind of moments, and just like when we met in person with them, and how they said it's still so fresh and so unique that people, some of these animators that were from the early days and things now know them, and you could just tell that they were just so excited about getting to know some of these mentors from the past and everything.
Very cool.
And I don't because everyone who's listening to us needs to go, if you haven't already, to go listen to Tom and Michelle with this interview, because it's just, if you've been down on Disney lately, if you're no, just listen and just feel that there is that kind of vibe and energy and in the company, and it exists and it's real. And I don't want to give out too many spoilers about the interview either, but and again, how I'm listening, sometimes I'm listening at work. It's fine. But the first time I listened to the interview, I was at work, and the thing that stopped me cold was hearing about how Robin, as the Lost Boy, got incorporated into the short, and just hearing that theme park connection. It was like, hey, this is the theme park representation, and this, and I was like, oh my God, I had to sit down. I was like, oh. And suddenly it hit me then. I recognized it at the time, but listening to I'm like a little teary now thinking about it, like how they were able to connect all of these little dots. And they said they couldn't get it all, but even to get that little moment in, and how it happened, and how the chips fell, it's just astounding, and those stories are so amazing.
Yeah, the story of why that character ended up making it in is pretty phenomenal, and they do tell that on our podcast, and
it's so
pretty
great.
interesting.
Yeah.
And the one that got us off guard completely, because we did not know. We'd done some homework and we're prepared for a lot of things during that, but the story of Josh Gad and Robin Williams and how they got together in this, I literally needed to take a moment, because I was not expecting it, and it caught me completely off guard, and it was amazing. And I was like, okay, gather yourself, because you still have an interview to do here.
Yeah.
Tom, get it together.
Yes.
You're a professional.
Michelle's usually doing.
But that's like all these gems that you keep hearing about it, how just little details like the globe from Mary Poppins appearing in there, and just all those little things that most people would never take notice of, and that they really incorporated into it, so much thought. And just the dynamic between these two guys, how they, when their first project that they worked together, and how they realized their style of working together just really clicked, and then to, kind of, they created the process to be able to have another project to work together, and just love their Taco Bell story, just everything about them and how they work together was just, so amazing to hear about.
Is there right? I'm in my head right now. I'm going, I don't want to spin this and make it like a negative. But is there something when the conversation was over, because you're getting so much? Is there something like, oh, I wish I had asked them this one question and they didn't get to
it?
Yeah, we each had a series of questions that we didn't get to ask, obviously. And I think it would have been probably not convenient for them, but they would have probably been willing to talk more about it. But they did have some other commitments, obviously, and things. But
we could have talked to those guys for
yeah,
2 more hours about
Yeah.
this, and it wouldn't. And I think they would have been fine. There was a point, and if you watch the YouTube video of this, because we do have it posted on YouTube as well, where Michelle asks Dan about the journal he kept during this whole thing, and he brought it out. And he was getting ready to read out of it, but we were like running short on time. And it's
my
like,
gosh.
Oh, man.
we have like 3 more questions we really need to get to, you know. And
Yeah.
I really wish that is the one thing that I really wish we could have allowed him the time to, you know, to get through there and find a couple spots
one
in
or
the
two
journal
things,
to go
right.
through. Because I'm sure it was fascinating stuff. And by the way, follow those guys on Instagram, especially Dan Abraham. He's at Sharktooth72, and Trent Corey's at Trent Animation. They've been for months posting little behind the scenes things that they've done. You know, some of the scenes that got cut, some of the scenes that got changed. A lot of the rough artwork and everything. It's really some fascinating stuff behind it. I really wish they would put something together, a behind the scenes or a making of, or like Michelle suggested, a coffee table book.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
The,
And I'm wondering if that's too some of the reason why it didn't make a nomination. If you really didn't know all those details and just thought, oh, it's a great little film, but not realize what was involved in this.
Yeah, Jen's deeply
They
sighing
don't
over
get
that.
it. They don't get it.
I know they don't.
No, and I think the book it would be like, right. I mean, here's the thing. Like we, you know, the 4 of us, we love those supporting materials, right? And like what we crave is, and you know, going to the Oscar nominations today, and you know, curious to see Elemental get the nod for best animated film, which we loved, and wish not gets the best animated film nod.
Right.
And just, you know, one of the things that stuck out to me about Elemental was that they released the documentary about a month after, and I think that documentary probably helped put more people into theater later in the summer. And it's like there's people who want those kind of making of behind the scenes, what went into it. They want to know what goes into making those moments magical. And you know, I think we all need those things once in a while.
And I don't think not only crazy Disney adults like ourselves, but also kids, like all 3 of our kids are obsessed with all of that. They want to see all that behind the scenes stuff and how things are made, and you know, just how things are brought to life. I mean, just slight side tangent, nothing crazy, but there's, you know, they're very big into Bluey, and there's a Bluey episode that at the very end they almost like pull it back where you can kind of see frame by frame, and they have seen that 100 times at this point, and they go nuts. They're like, yay! They like they want to see how it's all made, and we all want to see that. So I would love more of that to happen.
And so, I mean, and to that, I mean, I think, because I don't, maybe it's my I've never been to California thing, but I haven't looked at that much footage of the studios and that side, you know, and so even in that short, to kind of see the interior of the buildings and the staircase, like that was just all cool to me. I was like, I don't know if I really looked at this in depth before. So that like excited me and reminded me of when they did have the animation department when I was a cast member at the studio. So there was kind of that connection too. So I'm segueing into your because it was this the first time you've been at the studios before to visit, right? Am I mistaken in that?
We've been at the main part of the studios to the actual Walt Disney Studios. We've done a tour in the past. We've been there for like holiday events, some screenings in the theater there. So it's not it wasn't our first time doing that part of the studio.
Right.
It was the first time getting the chance to visit the animation studio, because that's not something that's a regular thing. That is, you can't, to the best of my knowledge, I think I've seen something for D23, like one time they did something there that I can recall, but it's not a frequent or regular thing to get to go visit that. So our chance to visit that was pretty darn special.
Yeah.
I mean, and because were you already planning runDisney? You already had that set up, and so that just kind of that was able to connect with all of that.
Well, we had Run Disney already set up, and we had the tour set up.
Yeah.
It all started with Run Disney first, and we decided, okay, so we left California, families in California.
Yeah.
This will be a great time. It's right after the holidays. Let's go ahead and get back to visit California. We can do the Disneyland run. We'll do a few days at Disneyland. We'll see family. It'll be great.
Mhm.
Once we booked it, we noticed, oh, hey, D23 is
Started
offering
releasing. Yeah.
tours of the studios.
Uh-huh.
Let's go ahead and book
Ah,
that. That's
gotcha.
always fun. We have a free day there. Let's go ahead and do that. And then some other things came around.
Yeah.
They've all fallen into place. The fire. You got to
Mhm.
follow the fire.
Yeah.
Oh my God, so awesome. I saw the picture. I was like, what is happening? What is going on right now?
I think we were doing that all the way through
Yeah.
as well. You know, what is happening? What is going on right now? That perfectly was our faces, I think, throughout the tour.
Right. Well, and I think we've talked about this before, and talked about like how these guys are just so genuine with what you've seen them in interviews and everything. That's what they're like. And when we were walking around and Dan was helping tour with us, and he was like, oh, give me your phone. Let me take some pictures of you. And he was offering that. And
Yeah.
it was just so
Yeah.
unique.
Except for the picture of us with Dan. Every picture I
One.
think that was taken, that is of us, was taken by Dan.
Yeah.
So funny. Did it feel surreal? Just
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, how could
100%.
it not?
Just pulling in the parking lot there, and
Mhm.
getting greeted by the security guard. Of course, they had our names already, and had badges for us and stuff. but
Signing the non-disclosure
signing the
agreement.
non-disclosure before you could talk to anybody.
Yes.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was just, for sure knowing, okay, this is unique, this is special, and take it all in.
It's so funny because we weren't even sure we could we could sign this non-disclosure.
Mhm.
And we're not even sure we could take pictures. She the other person that was with us took a picture of us with Dan, and we're like,
Mhm.
okay, well, works here.
Yeah.
Good.
Mhm.
So we're walking around, and like, I don't know, 15-20 minutes into the tour, this person's like, you can take pictures, right? We're like, we weren't sure. We're rule followers. We weren't gonna mess with
Yes.
anything.
Mhm.
So, like, okay, right, great. Snap, snap, snap,
Right.
snap.
Yeah. There was
Rule
just
followers unite.
places-
Yes.
Yes, there was a couple places where she said you can't take pictures of this, and it was mainly internal things. It's not like things coming up
Yeah.
or anything like
There were
that.
areas like, we can't take you back there because that's what stuff's going on right
Right.
now that we're
Mhm.
preparing. We're like, okay, that's fine. We
My
get it.
God.
We're just happy to be here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when
just so
is when is the NDA up, so we could just have you back and just discuss some things? When does that expire?
But
It was great.
Yeah.
We learned a lot about how the animation process is there, and how it's interesting because it filters down from the top down to the bottom. Like, it starts with story up top, and then it moves to animation, and it continues on down to where, like, the bottom
Sound and
floors
lighting.
finishes up with special effects and everything. So literally a trickle down effect with how the process works there. And it's a really interesting space. It's a wide open space. It's very they want to encourage people meeting together in areas and for open discussions. When we were there
Mhm.
Monday, they were having Bagel Monday in their little kitchen, so people could come in and grab their bagel and talk to each other, then go on their way to their offices or their studios or whatever it might be. It was very interesting to check out.
yeah, it really is set up to support the creative process between people, and how their leadership is very close to them and very accessible to anybody who wants to talk to them. So
Yeah, I mean, and that again, I think sometimes these things get lost, right? And going back to your interview and how they talked about Jennifer, and it to trickle down into when you I love my kid too loves the Frozen 2 documentary series, and you just watch that process and that creative process and just how everyone's involved and the level of passion involved.
right.
Like, that stuff gets lost so much, but it's to see it. I just oh,
Right.
you can feel it just walking around. I think that's not something to lose sight of.
Yeah.
Right.
And we did walk right past Jennifer Lee's office. It's
Mhm.
open. It's accessible.
my God.
It's right there. I mean, I don't think, she encourages everybody to come up and hit her all the time, but the door is open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it's closed off in some other building or anything like that. Like she is there, ready to work with just like everybody else.
And is there Easter egg footage? Is there like something on the cutting room floor of Michelle giving Trent and Dan trivia questions? That's what
I wish.
Like, while we're walking around here, I just had a couple of questions for you.
I mean, but all of that is amazing, and I mean, not to talk about ourselves for a second, but when Jen and I go through and we're interviewing like another Musketeer, it is that is something we're just so deeply connected with. So
Right.
to kind of take the ride with you here from first seeing the short until your recent trip here is just like that's what else is there? That's what every Disney fan wants, and it's really amazing.
Right.
So
Right.
cool.
Yeah, we feel blessed for sure that
Oh, yeah.
everything that happened from getting to witness that short on through this tour, and we hopefully have made a couple connections that maybe something will move forward for in the future. But I mean, no matter what, even if nothing ever else comes from this, this has just been a phenomenal couple months of excitement,
Right.
and getting to connect with some really talented and genuine and interesting people at Disney.
And well deserved for you both to be experiencing all of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean, and I
Definitely-
guess
no, it was great.
I guess it was worth it. I mean, I guess like if I now hearing it all, fine guys, it was worth it. Okay.
What if it's that what if we
Yeah.
didn't make it there on Sunday morning?
Oh my gosh. What if we just hung out with Frank and Jen too late into the night on Saturday
Right?
night and we
never
just
made
like,
it.
you know what, let's go late.
Right.
Can you imagine if
watch
we
the
ruined that for
YouTube
you?
about
No.
it. Oh my God.
You chose properly.
You made the right. And just to say, the podcast episode after you had the whole weekend where you just described like everything you did in Epcot in like that Saturday night, I was like, oh man, that's the dream right there. That's what you want to do. You just want to hit those things with no lines and get around real
Yeah.
quick, see something new, get out of there. It's great.
Yeah.
It was a good night for us.
Yeah.
All the way
Yeah.
around. It was a good day,
It was
good
a
night,
fun party.
good morning.
Yeah.
And our plans are to be back for, I don't know if we can top this Destination D23 when it comes around, hopefully in a couple of years here.
Yeah.
We plan to get back. for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. It was great.
Let's talk about your most recent Disneyland trip real quick, because something I texted to Tom earlier was the idea of, when Jen and I go visit now after living there for several years, there, sometimes it feels different, like it's just like suddenly you get a little nostalgic for when the time you lived there, and suddenly you're seeing a little corner that you hadn't seen since you lived there or something like that. So how long have you been back in Florida now? Because I'm gonna be like, oh my God, we haven't seen them over this long. When did you move to Florida?
Well, you moved a little early.
I moved a little earlier than
Yeah,
Michelle. I
Michelle was
moved
there.
in May.
Yeah,
I moved in May of last year,
No, the year
before.
2022, excuse me.
2022. Yeah.
And then Michelle finally got out there in early July
Mhm.
of 2022.
So yeah, so I guess revisiting Disneyland, then, like, do you feel a little of that? Like, we used to go here all the time, and now we're not going here as much anymore.
Yes. And not having to ask. What? We can't go into that Magic Key Lounge? Why?
we can't, we didn't get park hoppers. We can't just bounce between the two parks because
Yeah.
it's so easy over there to
Mhm.
bounce between the two parks. We can't just bounce over to California Adventure to pick up a cocktail and come back to
I
to
know.
Disneyland.
Yeah. But yeah, it's still a magical place for sure.
Mhm.
And it was fun getting back to see. I mean, if nothing else, like Avengers Campus and Cars Land are
Yeah.
Mhm.
super special.
It's so, because you get the Disney experience at Walt Disney World, and it's a different Disney experience. It's hard to compare the two. Everything is so compact, and there's Look, there's plenty of history of Walt Disney World, but there's something special about the history of Disneyland, being the
Mhm.
first, being the original, where Walt, walked through the park, where Walt has his apartment.
Mhm.
There's something special about that. But yeah, I mean, we've gone there for so many years that getting back there it was really nice to be back in what is home. But I mean, we love Walt Disney World too. We love them both for just
Different.
a little different reasons. So
Yeah.
it's good to get back. But I mean, we just got back from a weekend at Epcot and
Mhm.
a little bit of the Disney. Excuse me. Hashtag always MGM as well.
Yeah, I
Did
think when you
yeah,
especially
Jen.
when sorry, when wherever you kind of start your love for like it's hard to then compare. And that's what I've heard from people who are Disneyland people. Oh, they love Disney World, but like Disneyland is like it for them. And even, every year I think Frank and I are like, this is the year. And we both swear this is actually the year. We'll see. But I there's like this weird thing of like, how will I feel there? Like, what's it going to be like? But I do think that for me, having lived in Disney and just being there our entire lives, that there is kind of a separation of looking at Disneyland with all this history. Like, it's going to have this different, a different emotion than like Walt Disney World has for me, because that has all the
Mhm.
nostalgia. But
Mhm.
like you said, like this has the history, and I think just
Mhm.
being in that will be so cool. But yeah, I think kind of whatever your home park is or home coast is, it's hard to then really compare the two or switch
Right.
sides.
No,
Yeah,
you're absolutely
yeah,
correct, Jen.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because Michelle, did
Yeah.
you feel that because you started with Walt Disney World being your home? So did you feel that when you first
Yes.
started with Disneyland? Yeah.
Yes, it was kind of a real culture shock, and it's, I know I'm positive, but it wasn't necessarily the most positive culture shock. Of
Mhm.
course, it was also when Disneyland was first opening California Adventure Park, and they've admitted to where they made some misjudgments of how to address that. So I remember early on feeling like, well, yeah, tomorrow we're gonna go to Disneyland, but I wish we were going to Disney
Mm.
World. But over time, and as the parks really, you know, came to their own and had a lot more to offer, then it was like, I am so glad I'm going to Disneyland. And I still kind of feel when I'm going to Disney World sometimes now, I still feel like, oh, but Disneyland, there's something special there. And a lot of it too is like Tom said, it's compact. So you have a lot of conveniences. You can do a lot and
Yeah.
see a lot in a small amount of space. Um, but yeah, I guess it just takes some getting used to again. But I still love Disney World, don't get me wrong. And I still get excited about every day that I get to go there. I
Mhm.
can't sleep the night before. I'm like a kid. But
Yeah.
I do think there is something that we miss at times.
I think the thing about Walt Disney World is it is the vacation destination. Like if you
Mhm.
want to go there, I mean, I know you guys do your crazy couple day trips, but really to experience Walt Disney World, you kind of need, 5, 6, 7
Mhm.
days to kind of
Mhm.
take everything in
Mhm.
Yeah.
and, be able to rest and do some hotel hopping, resort hopping at some point. All that is part of it. If you go to Disneyland, like you can knock it out in a couple days, 3 days. You've done pretty much everything. It's good because everything is so tight and compact. A lot of the attractions that are spread out through 4 theme parks essentially are put into 2 at
Mhm.
Disneyland, which you can easily walk back and forth in between. So while it doesn't have everything Walt Disney World has, it has a lot in a compact amount of space, and it's a perfect like weekend or day destination to get that Disney feel in, um, you know, but not have to do an entire like that's it. That's our week. That's what we're doing for
Mhm.
the whole time. We're
Mhm.
our vacation. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there were there things specifically? I mean, obviously you had to do the runs, but is there something specifically going back and you're like, I have to do this, even if it's just looking at something, even if it's just walking in a building, or a ride, it can be anything, tasting something, a churro, whatever. Is there something that you're like, this I must do this?
We have so many things.
Yeah.
First thing, the first day we went there, we decided it was the last day of the official holiday season for Disneyland there. So we were like, okay, I know it's January, what was it, 7th,
Yeah.
but we're going to holiday it out. We full on holidays. And we did, we did Haunted Mansion Holiday, which is one of
Yeah.
our favorites. I mean, we love the original Haunted Mansion. It's great, but the Haunted Mansion Holiday, it's unfortunate that they may be only getting Haunted Mansion Holiday this year because it's nice when you got both of them there that you get to experience both. But like, we got to do that. We did a holiday tour, a guided tour to kind of check out all the holiday decor.
And we found out how and where they pump out the smells from the bakery.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
I said, see that tile? That's where it comes out.
That's where they trick you into buying this stuff.
That's right.
And it's a small world holiday, which you don't get to experience out at Walt Disney World.
Yeah.
Is they fully deck out Small World. Every character in there has a little bit, or at least a little bit of little holiday flair to them. It's going between Christmas carols and It's a Small World. It's just
Blends nicely.
it's just the holidays to us.
Yeah.
And then the lighting up, I mean, there's nothing like the facade of It's a Small World at Disneyland. That lighting up at night is spectacular.
Right.
It's an incredible time, and
Right.
we're so glad we got to check that out during this trip. But also getting over to see Avengers Campus, because while you can argue whether or not the attractions are good enough or whatever, just the experience of sitting there and the walk around characters that you get out there is just it's a great spot to just people watch and see the interactions between these characters, because they're all so good. That's fun. And then Cars Land is like one of the most immersive lands you're going to find anywhere. Like, it feels like you're just dropped in the movie.
Right.
It's good.
Yeah, I feel like Cars Land has become such a thing for us to be like, we definitely need to see that. I also need to see
You
that
do.
as the sun is setting, apparently, and a little bit at night.
Yes.
So I'm going to need to see it in all the lighting, everything,
Right.
because every time I see pictures of it, it looks good in all lighting. So I want to experience all of that. But yeah, I mean, and we even talk about that sometimes when we start comparing different lands here and there. And we're like, we know we haven't been, but that Cars Land really looks awesome.
Yes.
And that's
Especially holiday times.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I can imagine. It's like
Yeah,
that. I mean,
so
and that's here. So here's my question for you, because there's a couple of parents in the neighborhood here who have been picking Disneyland as their vacation lately over Disney World. I'm not going to say why. I'm just saying that people are feeling the pull towards Disneyland instead, and so
Why
like,
could
I know
that be?
and people are like, what? I know it's like, oh, I haven't been to Disneyland, but I can tell you lots about it. And and one of the things they talk about is Cars Land a lot. And so my question for you is, beyond Frontierland, do you want to see Cars Land there, or do you hope it's something else entirely because it's a Disneyland thing?
I like things being separate.
Yeah.
Personally, I mean, if Cars Land goes there, great. I don't think it fits there necessarily. I don't think it's a Magic Kingdom piece. I could see it much better in #AlwaysMGM, or I could see it into. I think that's where it fits.
We need
to
to
me.
talk later.
Michelle wants to. Apparently, Michelle has different feelings than me.
I'm feeling a crossover event.
Yeah.
We'll learn more on Sunday, I think, as well. And so just a quick follow-up, because I feel like people have the feelings all the time about Galaxy's Edge. Just how you kind of let in about Avengers Campus. How come? Is it me? Maybe I'm not seeing it in my algorithms. Do people feel the same way about Avengers Campus as they do about Galaxy's Edge? Not in the positive way.
No, I think that well, I've seen people like, oh, it needs another attraction. I think that most of that becomes because Mission Breakout was there before the land ever opened,
Uh-huh,
so they don't. It's almost like there was only one attraction that opened up there with what Spider-Man Web Slingers. So they kind of feel like there needs another attraction, but there's 2 attractions in that land that are Marvel based. It works. But again, I think it depends on if you just want to go in there and take a look at it. It may not come across to you, but if you actually sit down for a while and take it all in and hear the music playing in the background, and it's you like to. We used to come on and talk about pockets. You guys used to talk about pockets. Avengers Campus itself is one giant pocket just for sitting and taking it all in, especially as a Marvel fan. And the fact that as a series or a movie comes out, that you never know when one of those characters might just make its first appearance out there too, that it's a living, breathing thing, is also kind of really what I think is very cool about it.
For sure. I think people, if they're looking for, okay, we got to do more attractions, then that's where they see a disappointment. But like Tom said, the characters, it's there's very little gap in between throughout the day where you're not seeing a character out there either talking with people, taking pictures, or doing stunts and things like that. It's pretty consistent. And then you have the other things, like you go into Pim's kitchen and you can have the most uniquely looking food that'll just crack you up, like this giant chicken and a little bitty bun on top, they're just how playful they are. And I think that's what we see a lot especially at California Adventure, how there's more playfulness within each of these lands, kind of going back to Cars Land, to see the types of decorations. It's very unique and it's very in theme of what's going on, but it's not what you've seen in the films,
Right.
But I think that's with Avengers Campus. If you're looking for, we got to do so many attractions within a day, that's where people kind of lose sight of what some of the other things are going. But they have shows, they have, tons of meet and greets, very spontaneous meet and greets that you don't have to be standing in line for, 30, 45 minutes ahead of time, that you can just happen upon them. And Tom had like a 5-minute conversation with one of the characters. It was just like, okay.
Miss Marvel was chatting me up.
Yeah.
I just came out to get a picture and she was just, we decided that the next musical is going to be Miss Marvel, the musical there. So we just worked it all out apparently.
That's awesome.
But that's cool. That to me, that's, old school Disney of just being able to sit and experience things and their shows and the character interaction. We love a good character interaction spot. So, I'm not going to comment on the negativity out there about any kind of lands or people or warehouse. They start going on and on, but that sounds awesome to me.
Right.
So
It is. It is.
And Disneyland in general, the entire resort for walk around characters, way better than Walt Disney World. Just for who you might encounter around any bend, you just never know.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I know you often talk to our friend Justin Monorell about this a lot, but let's say I wanted to do Run Disney in the future. How are you going to sell me on doing Run Disney?
Well, first of all, I think if you decide to do a 5K, you really, if you can walk around World Showcase 3 times in a day, you've nailed it.
You've already done a 5K.
Yeah, you've already done the 5K. You can walk the 5K, because there are some people who are, running, but then you have people standing in line for a picture with characters,
long lines.
Long.
Like we saw some long lines.
That's funny.
So in terms of, if you're doing a 5K, you don't have to really train because you're not trying to get
Speak for yourself, Michelle. Speak for yourself.
What's the temperature going to be?
I know.
That's key. That's key. Here's the thing about Run Disney is you look at the price, you look at the time you got to go and everything, and it all seems horrible. And then you actually get out there on the course, and the energy is not like anything else you've ever experienced from any other kind of event like this. I mean, there's a reason why these people keep coming back. And you'll hear it. I mean, like we were there, we were staying at the Disneyland Hotel, which was where the expo and everything was. And we were getting our bibs and everything. We were walking around. So a lot of the runners were out there. And I heard numerous times people were like, oh, we got to get up so early. These are the same people that will be there for the next race and the next race and the next race. Yes, everybody complains about it. Yet there's something addictive to that energy that you get out there. There's nothing like it. It's hard. You can't explain it to anybody until they've actually done it. And then more often than not, they're like, I get it. I get why everybody does these things so often.
I mean, there's also, it's kind of elongated. Like when you think of your community runs, and there are a lot of great ones, and we've done them and things like that. So this is not criticizing them, but usually in the morning, you get up early, you go to that run, you get your bib, you run, and it's done. But here, you got to be there the day before because you have to go to the expo to get your bib. And then there's just so much, like Tom said, so much energy around there. They're taking photos. You have opportunities to, get to see some other vendors, obviously, and things like that. But you have already that day. So that's behind you. So when it's time for the race, and you can really just focus on the race, but it's the energy at the race. Like Tom said, you're going through parks and they're having special, whether it's different signage or lighting or music that is really specific.
Cast members cheering you on.
Yes,
interesting. Sometimes special characters that you don't see a lot of places or special outfits.
Right. And it's just so for that, it's just so sensory overload of fun that while you're doing that, and then, at the end you get this amazing medal. They're really amazing, and then you just, again, you tend to not just run away after that. There's just this kind of, everybody kind of hangs together, especially here at Disney World. There's a lot more space to do that. And so it just kind of elongates that experience to make it more of a fun day.
And then it even goes into the day in the parks where people are walking around and they're wearing their gear, they're wearing their medals, and and so it's like, oh, congratulations. There are people are always like, congratulations. I mean, it's just, there's just something about the vibe that's just very, very cool.
And there's always people around, in addition to the cast members, that they allow guests some areas. Sometimes it's allowing them to go into the parks. Sometimes it's, not in the parks, but in a run area, and there's a lot of people who are cheering you on, even though you and them are strangers. They're still, cheering you on. And I mean, I remember when we did the 10K not too long ago, and I was really feeling it at that point. It was kind of near the end. And there was this one guy, and he just kept saying, you're going to do this. I think he just saw my face that I was like, I really don't want to keep doing this. But that was a 10K, never a 5K.
Yeah.
I've gone to 5Ks being sick and made it through. Yeah.
I feel like we talked about it a few years ago. Like, should we do this? Should we aim for only a 5K? You will not see me at a
You don't
Dopey
think you could do a 10K?
You could.
Yeah,
I mean,
you could, but the 5K is more fun because it's less pressure.
I appreciate your support, everyone, but no, I don't think I could do a 10K.
I think I'm funny to think I could possibly get up to the half. That's really where, I mean, but I don't think it's going to happen. But
I mean, I'll wake up and cheer you on. I'll do that.
You won't do a half, Jen? If
I would not do a half. No, I would do the 5K.
You wouldn't do the 10K.
We didn't ever think we'd get to a half, and we both got to the half, and we've both done a half. We don't do it regularly, but we have done it in the past.
Yeah.
My motivation
you
would
can
be
do
that
it.
morning.
The 10K you definitely could do. The 10K you could do.
Now, the one thing about, and I think I shared this on our episode already, but you might want to consider doing it over in California, because it is a lot easier to wake up at 3 a.m. California when your body is still sort of on East Coast time.
True.
Because it's like 6 o'clock. It's not bad.
Yeah,
Weather's a lot better too.
I like that thought. That's It's a good one.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know what conversations Jen's been having, but I have started the Disneyland conversations because
Yeah.
I'm turning 50 this year. I don't know if anybody
Mhm.
knows, but
Yeah.
I'm fine with it. It's fine.
It's fine. Everything's going fine.
But I'm like, I think Disneyland has to be part of this 50 mix. The fact they haven't made it out here in the first 50 years is problematic for me at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You haven't
You
even been
gotta
to
do- as-
California, which is crazy.
No, yeah.
Wow, you've never been to California?
No, I've walked through LAX on a
Oh,
to change planes.
Oh, I'm
That's about it.
sorry.
yeah. Sorry
had to
about
do
that. Of all the airports you can
Yeah.
walk through in California.
And I have been
Um,
north and I have been San Diego area. And I think I have flown into LAX once, but I have been north twice and south once. So I need to just
Yeah.
get to Disneyland. And I love California. Like every time we're out there, we're like, should we move here? Should we come here?
No,
It
I
is
mean these are the
wonderful
two
there.
things, right? This year, it's like Disneyland and meeting Tom and Michelle. I think
Right?
that's
Yes.
that's
there
really
you go.
what
Yes.
It's
is
gonna happen.
Yes, yes.
It's gonna happen this year.
Yes.
happening. Well, I feel like I have 1,000 questions in my head. Jen, is there anything that is
I mean,
popping
sure.
out
Do
at
you want to do another hour or should we just do this another time? Because
I mean, I think. Well, I'm thinking if I end up, at least if we both end up, who knows? But doing Disneyland this year, I certainly, always in my head when it comes to visiting Disney parks in Florida, or even how I went about going to Disneyland Paris, is my goal is always one attraction per hour. Like if I can get on one attraction per hour, I'm a happy camper. So I feel like at some point, at least for Disneyland proper, I would love to hear Tom and Michelle's take someday on what Disney park would they choose for each hour of a day on a first visit.
Mm.
Yeah, so I'll do that as a little tease, maybe later this year, so we don't go as
Yeah,
I
long.
like
love
that.
it. Love
like
it.
that.
So I think that's where we'll go with that. But we will leave this time and this space and this energy to for you to do all the plugs with all the social medias and the whole thing. Are you on Threads? That's what I want to know.
We are
We're
on
on
Threads.
Yeah.
We are. We are not as active as probably we should be on Threads, but
same.
our
Yeah,
daily
but
pictures go
present.
there too.
We feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, you can find us pretty much everywhere you get a podcast. However, the very best place to find us is on our own website, HyperionAdventuresPodcast.com. We're on social media. We're on Twitter,
X.
at Hyperion Podcast, Facebook,
let it go.
Instagram,
Let it
and
go.
yes, Threads. No one calls it X.
Hashtag always Twitter.
Instagram and Threads. Yeah. We're at Hyperion Adventures Podcast there. We do have a YouTube channel. We've made a resolution to do more with the YouTube this year. Hopefully we get around to that.
Yeah.
We're at Hyperion Adventures Podcast there. And if you want to, drop us a line, we're on Gmail. We're Hyperion Adventures Podcast at gmail.com.
Awesome.
Listen, I mean, I have been so excited for you guys the last several months with all of this, but it's the everyone I feel like is now discovering, in the best way possible, like what both of you are all about. And like if they I don't know what they were missing for 5 years prior, but I really feel like it's really
Where you been?
happening for both of you right now. Yeah, where have you been? And this
A sleepy little podcast that could.
Yeah.
this moment has really, I just that episode with Trent and Dan was just so great, and really
Thank
like
you.
if you can line things up, in the podcast, like there was just such a perfect alignment for that, and it's just been so great, and it's so great to see all of your success recently, and now it just will be capped by us getting together in person.
Yes.
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 That
Yes.
is going to happen. We
For
have to
sure.
make that happen. Let's get working on
Yeah.
it. We have
Yes,
to
we
make an
must.
appointment, make sure.
Yes.
Yes.
But we definitely appreciate your support. We have felt it all along. When you shared your excitement for us, it really meant a lot. It really touched us, and we really appreciate it.
For sure.
Yeah, this is what but seriously, it's what it's all about. And I
Mhm.
mean, for we dip into our nostalgia, but just to see that happen. I mean, that's the stories we love in the community, and it couldn't happen to better people. So
Yeah.
Oh, thank
That's
you.
the way we feel about you. You
Yeah.
guys are great.
Yeah,
and
for
we're just
sure.
following in your footsteps.
That's
well
right.
behind in your footsteps. Like to get a little closer, but just following in the Theme
way.
Park Thursday Dillo's Diz footsteps for sure.
Follow the fire with the Hyperion Adventures podcast. Until next time, that's Tom and Michelle. She's Jen. I'm Frank. Oh, happy birthday, Jen. Happy
birthday.
42nd birthday.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Kisses. For your one-stop shop for all things Dillos, visit DillosDiz.com. Follow us on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Dillos Diz. Don't forget to join our Facebook group at Dillos Diz Community Core. We have plenty to see over at youtube.com/DillosDiz. Remember to hit that subscribe button. We'd love to have you check into DillosDizResort.com with tiers starting as low as $1. Theme Park Thursday with Dillo's Diz featuring Frank Cardillo and Jen Cardillo Snyder.